Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Would you like even more content? Here's my Patreon. Now onto the stories. Case file number 1091, written by Amythystia, the night I predicted an earthquake. I have very vivid and intense dreams. One night, when I was around 13 or 14, I was dreaming of a safari hunt for T-Rexes, and we had to save a golden idol from pirates in the jungle. Strange dream, but during it, while running, everything suddenly stopped. I saw myself face me, not sure how to phrase that, and I said, "Amythystia, wake up! Everything is about to shake, and you're in danger, wake up!" I woke up instantly and sat up confused. Roughly 15 seconds later, my boxer puppy woke up and started whimpering and whining, and the rabbit I had started hopping in his cage. Seconds later, an earthquake occurred. It wasn't very big, but strong enough to knock several photos down and my shelf. Now, this specific shelf was mounted above my head. It was made of a very thick type of wood, and on it was a collection of random prized items, including a quart jar filled with sand and shells, several large books, a heavy statuette, etc. Suffice to say, it was quite heavy. When it fell directly onto my pillow where my head had been a moment before. I hadn't ever felt an earthquake, and I live in a northern Midwest state that rarely gets earthquakes strong enough to be felt. I have had other dreams since that foreshadowed events, but that was the only one that happened immediately after. It still gives me chills. Case notes are file 1091, the night I predicted an earthquake. So animals have a sixth sense over disasters, and a lot of people report on very similar dreams like this, predicting an event that occurs, especially emergencies. And you notice in the story, all your pets react before you do. They do sense something's going on. So this proves that there is information that we may not be able to perceive, at least not consciously. We don't have the senses for it, or at least, again, not consciously reported to us. Maybe the information reaches our brain and we can process it, we just don't have it filtered down to us. To me, it's not really that the mind changes. It's not like your mind is different than it was the day before you had this newfound ability. More than that, I think it's more like invalid or rough roads. The connection in your mind to the conscious to transport the information, that exists in the subconscious. It's a link between the subconscious and the conscious, but it can be blocked off. And especially as we grow older. As kids, I think the link is much more established, but our brains are still too young to really fully materialize or benefit from this higher connection. Unless the child is gifted, and then all the kinds of wild things can happen. The thing is, I think one time where even as an adult, it can be traversed more freely is when we're dreaming. The mind is more active and the roads, freeways, clear. And the travel is even in a different format. It's like, instead of driving on a road, when we dream, all the roads flood and then we have access to boats. And with boats, you can travel maybe not as quickly and maybe not in the same direction exactly because rivers meander. But you do get there, where otherwise the road may be entirely blocked off. The connection is not there. Case file number 1092, written by Mr. Hustles. The chilling moment I spotted a mysterious child on my street. So one night, I'm driving home from a friend's place. It's pretty late, like 2 or 3 in the morning. I live in the suburbs and the streets are relatively tight, so I'm typically driving pretty slow. Don't speed in your neighborhood. Happy neighbors are good neighbors. I'm nearing the turn to enter my road, and from a distance, I see what looks like to be someone outside. Pretty unusual this time at night, as it's all young families and retirees around me. As I get closer, it's definitely a kid, which is even stranger. Like, doesn't this kid have parents? They're standing directly under the streetlight with a raincoat on, and it's not raining, and their hood up over their head so that the shadow cast completely covers their face. I know my neighborhood pretty well, and while I don't know most by name, you know who has kids and who doesn't. This corner house 100% doesn't have any kids. That kid's gaze was locked into my truck, unwavering, turning their head and staring straight at me as I slowly passed, turning right towards my house. This kid only a few feet away. This kid did a full 180 with their body and watched me drive down my street. While I only live 6 or so houses close, it's just enough that I lost sight of the kid. It was super unsettling. I couldn't even quite explain to you the feeling I got from it. I went back into my driveway, put my truck in park, thought about what I saw, and said, I've got to check this out. Back into drive and back down the street, maybe 20 seconds tops since I passed, and the kid was gone, vanished. The roads are straight enough in any given direction that in any short amount of time, that kid would have had to sprint straight up to stand a chance of being out of sight. The flucking demon child is gone. I went home, parked quickly, and didn't take my time getting inside and locking the door. To this day, I never saw the kid again or anything that's given me a bad vibe like that. Damned if I know what was going on. If it was a prank, hats off. You did it, kid. You scared me. Case notes for file 1092. The chilling moment I spotted a mysterious child on my street. So was it a sleepwalking kid? There's a lot of stories involving strange children at night, especially while driving. Why is it always while driving? And then the black eyes. Besides blacked out black eyes, these children typically appear normal. Sometimes their attire seems outdated, if we go by the black eyes mythos. In extremely unusual instances, people have even reported encountering creatures with talon-like feet, and there's speculation of aliens. I like the last bit. Posing as children. Kinda innocuous if you're gonna study humans up close. It's not a bad bet. Bonus file, written by Mayonaishe, the mysterious woman in Lilac. Was on holiday staying at an old cottage. Went out to the beach with my mom, dad, and sister, and left my grandma in the house. She fell asleep sitting in a chair in the lounge. At one point, whilst we were out, my half-asleep nan saw a woman wearing a lilac dress walking through the room. She assumed it was my mom back from the beach. She woke up a short time after and couldn't find us in the house. When we got back from the beach a couple hours later, she said, "Oh, did you go out again? You were back ages ago." We told her that we had only just got back, and she told us she had seen my mom wearing a long lilac dress in the lounge. This obviously wasn't possible. During this holiday, I was sharing a room with my sister. We were young, and in the middle of the night, we heard the front door slam loudly. Our parents came running into our room, but we were still both in our beds. I scrambled and looked out of the window, which was directly above the front door, but no one was outside. And my dad went straight down and could find no one in the house. Another day, my mom went to the bookcase in her room and took a random book out. Placed within the pages, there was an old handwritten note. It was personally written by a lady, and she got a feeling that she shouldn't be reading them. She put them back in the book and put the book back on the shelf. The next morning when she woke up, the note was on her bedside table. She asked my dad if he had moved it out of the book, but he had no idea what she was talking about. We would also find that the furniture had moved downstairs overnight sometimes. My mom also kept finding curtain hooks in her bed and on the side of the table, the plastic things that hold curtains to the pole. Again, if she asked my dad if he had put them there, he'd say he hadn't. When we came to leave, the owner of the cottage came to collect the keys, and my mom asked her if there was a cleaner who might have visited, and the owner said no, why? My mom explained that my nan had seen a lady in the house wearing a lilac dress. The lady said, "Oh, she's at it again." The house was owned by her grandmother, who had recently died. Her favorite outfit was, you guessed it, a long lilac dress. Apparently, they had already had the house blessed because she had made a couple of other appearances. When she died, they didn't clear her stuff out, and the house had just put it up as a holiday rental, which is why the note hadn't been previously found. Once we left and went home, for the next few years, my mom would find curtain hooks in her bed at home. I moved out of our family home to go to college and university, and at my student house, I once found a curtain hook in my bed there. There were no curtains in the house, only blinds. My mom stopped finding them in her bed after a few years, but believes it was a woman in lilac. My whole family witnessed all of this, so it adds credibility to what happened, combined with the owner's testimony about her gran. It actually kind of creeps me out writing this down now, as it has kind of been forgotten and posting it makes it feel real again, but this was a genuine experience we all shared. I hope I didn't miss anything, and if you made it this far, thanks for listening. Case notes for the bonus file. The mysterious woman in Lilac. She sounds like a sweet lady, the gran that passed away in Lilac. Honestly, perhaps just lonely. But curious that as a spirit, she was able to follow you both, your mom and you, presumably a fair distance away from her tether, which usually are physical possessions of particular meaning to that individual that died. So maybe in this case, somehow the curtain hooks are what tethers are. Maybe she slipped them into your bags without you noticing. So in rare cases, these spirits can wander away from their original rooted point. But yeah, if those curtain hooks had meaning to her, and they probably do given that they were placed on your bed, I think that was intentional. It's not just an accident. Basically, she hitched a ride with both of you. Curious possibility. Reminds me of Bobby in Supernatural using his flask to hitch a ride with Dean to try to get his revenge. Hey, if you can do it, why not? If I was a spirit and was locked into one area, I would still want to travel, so you'd find what's important to you and try to slip it onto someone else, like passing the TSA at the airport. Have to make sure they have it on them, and then you can travel with them. It's an interesting rule, or maybe a guideline of the universe. If that's how it works, well, that's what you gotta do. And now time for the quote of the day. When something is important enough, you do it, even if the odds are not in your favor. Elon Musk. Genius inventor. Eccentric too. Genius often is. Now, as for the quote, I think it's extremely striking. If something is extremely important to you, and you know that it is important to you, even if you're not necessarily skilled at it yet, even if your plan isn't fully fledged out, you just know deep in your gut this is exactly how I felt with my channel, and how I quit my job working cleaning offices. Before I was even monetized, the channel was even monetized. I just knew this is what I had to do, this was my calling. If you know what your calling is, and you know if you know, don't ignore it. And yeah, maybe don't jump in like a crazy man like I did, or like Elon Musk does, but definitely work on it. Set aside a lot of time to work on it, please. You owe it to yourself, your future self. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. Kinetic Symphony signing off.